Yeah, Gurmagad Cahirlock, and Leader, today I'd like to raise the issue of taxis, and taxis are an essential part of our public transport services. And specifically, I'd like to raise the issue of the 10-year rule that require taxis that exceed 10 years to be retired off the road. Next year in 2023, that means that more than 5,000 taxis will actually have to be removed from the national taxi fleet. It represents about a third of our national taxi fleet. And, you know, it's really important that we don't lose sight of the fact that the taxis are really an essential part of the public transport service. They allow people go to work, essential workers, attend medical appointments. They allow people to reduce their carbon emissions by not actually having to own and operate their own car, but avail of a car service. And they offer a really secure and reliable service when some of our other public transport services aren't available, or where some of our other public transport services aren't available. And throughout the pandemic, with the support of government, many of our taxi drivers continue to operate and continue to provide service. And since the pandemic ended and the world has reopened, there's been a huge demand, and in fact there's been a lot of complaints that we've actually got a shortage of taxis. So now this 10-year rule, which is looming in 2023 for, as I say, around 5,000 taxis, means that a fleet of essential public transport service is likely to be reduced, very significantly reduced. And while the original intention of the 10-year rule was to decarbonise the fleet, which I wholly support, which the taxi drivers themselves wholly support, the reality of it is the world has changed quite dramatically from when that 10-year rule was first conceived. So now we have obviously a war in Ukraine, we have a shortage of vehicles, and that is something the industry and the sector is saying themselves. And it's not actually easy to purchase an electric vehicle. It's financially very expensive. And the taxi drivers themselves are committed to making the transition to electric vehicles. But what they're saying is that their earnings are still recovering, the vehicles aren't available, and the cost of actually operating and trying to purchase a vehicle is beyond them at the moment. So what, Leader, I'd like you to do is to write to the Minister for Transport and ask the Minister to consider extending the deadline for another 12 months. And if you can do that, it'll protect an essential part of the public transport service, and it'll give us a bit of breathing space to ensure that public transport services are not interrupted in our cities, and it'll be hugely welcome. Gurmagad.